Hi, I'm Steve Dunkley. I'm a beer and brewing historian and a beer tourist, and we're looking in these episodes to find out about the history of beer from a more social point of view. I mean, what do people drink, where they're from, why they drank like that. And this time around, I'm in Liverpool, which is an incredibly unusual city for beer history because it doesn't really have one. Not in the same way that other cities do. And there's a few reasons for this that I'm going to look at. And the first one we've got to look at in 1830, there was a massive drinking problem in England. People were getting incredibly pissed on spirits. There was brawling in the streets, in the bars, and everyone's falling over. And this just wasn't good. The government at the time wanted to do something about it. So they introduced the Beer Houses Act with the idea that if the pubs were open longer, people wouldn't be trying to rush all their drinks down. And they also, part of this was the beer houses themselves. Previous to this, if you wanted to open a pub, it had to be a fully licensed premises, and the local judiciaries would take a lot of money off you. They would make sure you were a fit and proper character and that you owned your own house, public house that is. So the Beer Houses Act changed that by giving the power to award a beer house licence to anyone with a couple of guineas. And it wasn't the judiciaries that had the say on that, it was the local excise people who they saw it as, yeah, we can get a bit more money, straight to the government, not to the local councils. So these sprung up all over the country. Everywhere these were coming up, in towns and cities up and down the land. Even in shops, people were just adding on a little bit extra, brewing out the back, selling the beer. But that didn't happen in Liverpool. And the census of the beer houses in 1832 showed that in Manchester, just down the road, about 45 miles down the road, half of the premises selling beer were beer houses. In Liverpool, it was only 6%. It was a tiny amount. They just didn't take off here. People in Liverpool, it seemed, weren't interested in beer. One of the reasons for this is the Mersey behind me. Liverpool, as you may or may not know, is a massive dock city. It used to have lots of goods coming in here, and that meant lots of sailors. And sailors didn't have a taste for beer. Sailors had a taste for rum and other spirits, and they were coming in to the port, a couple of days off, freshly paid from a few months at sea, lots of money, wanted to drink a lot. So they weren't interested in beer. So beer houses weren't doing any trade. So Liverpool stayed mostly spirits, fully licensed premises. And that is only the start of what really makes Liverpool unique for its drinking culture. So I'm going to go and find out a bit more. Now, I said that Liverpool doesn't really have a beer history, but it does have an amazing pub history. You get places like this one, the Crown Hotel, right next to the station. And it literally is right next to the central station here, or Liverpool Street Station, Liverpool Lime Street, sorry. And you look at it, it's very ornate, and Liverpool is known for these wonderfully big ornate pubs. They're huge, very open plan, and if you look at the front doors to it, you can see there are multiple of them. Now, for ones like this, they didn't always lead into multiple roomed pubs, but rather into wide open space ones. The reason being that you'd have all of these sailors would come in at once, and they wouldn't get served very quickly. So Liverpool was the forerunner of the open plan pub, the vertical drinking. No booths, no tables and chairs, just lots of long high ledges along the windows and along the bars in the middle, where lots of people could get served very quickly because they wanted that money in very quickly before they got back to the boats, and they're all coming in at once. You want all of that extra cash. But even though Liverpool is known for these big splendid pubs, like the most famous one, the Philharmonic, these generally weren't the main pubs for the locals. I mean, places like this one here would have got some sailors in it, but mostly they were for the merchants. So especially the Philharmonic, which is a palace, it is no other way to describe it. These were ones for the merchants, for the rich people, for the captains of the ships. Whereas the poor people, the locals, they drank somewhere completely different, and that is especially what Liverpool isn't known for, but should be. So, back down by the docks, this place, the Baltic Fleet, is far more what the pubs at the time would have been like. It's small-ish, especially compared to the palaces, and as you can see, it's got lots of doors, lots of big open windows, all of which would have gave really quick access into the place. And that was really vitally important for them. Quick access, quick, easy drinking. But this style of pub, even in itself, was quite unique in the country at the time. Most pubs, we get the word from the public house, but in Liverpool, they started doing something a little bit different, and it's a system pioneered by a guy called, by Walker's Brewery of Warrington, Robert Walker, and then his sons. And Warrington's 20 miles away, over towards Manchester, but the railway had just turned up, so it made it so that he could have his brewery out in Warrington and ship his beers into Liverpool, where all the drinkers were. So he wasn't paying the huge price for land and for buildings in Liverpool itself. He had that as an advantage, and shipping on the trains wasn't that expensive comparatively. So he did something brand new. The country had barely seen it. He was a brewer who owned pubs. Previously, as I was saying, all of the pubs were owned by an individual. They'd be getting their licenses from the local magistrates. But this guy decided that the way to do it was to own the pubs himself and install managers. So he wasn't bothering with the the loans that people would be running. So some publicans would get a loan from a brewery, and from that they'd have to buy their beer from the brewery to pay back the loan. Others had nice supply deals with them, but he was like, no, not doing that. I'll employ the manager, I'll interview them, I'll make sure they're right, I'll install them, I'll own the building, I'll do it how I want it. And he had a fair few of these pubs around Liverpool, and this was the first tied house system, the first managed estate that any brewery had done. And it started here in Liverpool, and we still have it today. And it didn't take off straight away. They looked to expand and to go into London, but the licensed victuallers in London, and the local magistrates and a lot of the brewers like, no, we don't want that. We don't want any change to the status quo. Take your new ideas and go back up north. So unfortunately, all of the money invested in that near enough bankrupted him, and he had to merge with another brewery, with Cain's actually, which then became Cain's Walker. So it's a real shame in a way, because when it went to court down in London and he was trying to plead for his case to be allowed to do this, they got in other people from the local area of Liverpool to turn around and say whether or not they should be allowed to do it. And all of his competitors basically turned around and said, well, it's not what we do, but we've heard nothing bad about them, and all of the pubs seem to be doing well. Because they were. He made sure, and he employed somebody whose job it was solely to go around and check all of his pubs. So just turn up, mystery shopper in a way, and make sure the pubs were clean, that they were run efficiently. He had accountants that would go through and do all of the books for them. So a professional accountant rather than just a landlord trying to make it up as we went along. These were properly run modern businesses. And yeah, it's kind of a shame that it didn't take off in that way, but then again, we would have lost the free houses a lot earlier if we had done that. I'm here with Les and Julie of Neptune Brewery.
Hello.
Hello.
You are local legends in this area, though, aren't you?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I'm not sure legends is the word.
We are known.
You're very well known.
Yes.
Both in sort of like the traditional brewing scene and in the sort of like the craft scene, because you do both of them at your place.
Yeah.
So and very well. And you're about to open a pub.
A bar.
A bar.
Yes, it's going to be called Neptune Beer House.
Neptune Beer House.
Yes, so it's basically taken over because we've moved the brewery and we no longer have the tap room.
Right.
We're having a standalone brewery, and then we decided that we were going to have a standalone bar, so that will house all our beers. So it'll be Neptune Beer House.
Nice. Very good. This is one thing I've been reading about the beer houses, and Liverpool played a very important role in this. They didn't take off in Liverpool.
No.
The sailors had more of a taste for spirits, so when I think 1930s the Beer House Act came in, 1932 the first census of them was done, and in Manchester 50% of the outlets selling beer were beer houses, and in Liverpool it was 6%.
Nice.
They just weren't here.
Was nothing. Yeah.
People just didn't want the beer. So it's a very strange history of sort of like brewing in Liverpool. You look at it and you had a lot of the common brewers that were selling out to the bar, to the licensed premises, but not really beer houses. They just didn't
exist.
So it just seems that it never really took off. You know, beer never really took off in Liverpool in history until reasonably recently. I mean, even through the 90s. I was saying you had a look through the good beer guides, and in '96 the only breweries listed were Black Horse and Rainbow.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of them.
That's it's literally just down the road. It's a brew pub.
Yeah.
Or it was a brew pub. It's not there anymore. It's now the Red Door, which is obviously.
Oh, is that right? The Red Door at the bottom.
Yeah.
On the main road.
Yeah. So that was the
top.
Black Horse and Rainbow. And you used to have a brew kit in the back,
Right. They did actually, because we bought some of their stuff over to Charles when we used to work in Peterborough. We had some of their stuff on there.
Alright, okay.
So they did sell it out about a bit. The other one, Keynes.
Yeah.
And it's checkered history.
Yes, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off.
And it's off again.
It is,
We found out.
yes.
We just found out. So that's again, it's unfortunate. The other one is Liverpool Brewing Company,
Yeah.
which seemed to have closed and reopened again. I don't know if that's the same people. Or
No, it's a different. It was closed, and a group of people bought the kit, and obviously changed the name to Liverpool Brewing Company rather than Liverpool Organic Brewery.
Oh right, so no, this wasn't Liverpool.
Oh, was it a different one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one that used to be. Oh, good grief! Yes, it was. Oh, they used to sell it in the Bridewell.
Right, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul Fitzie's mate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Colin, I think, was it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it
it's
lasted
the
for a
Brew
couple of
Company,
years.
yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And the only other one listed, in '96, which was in the middle of the second wave or the first wave of the microbrew revolution, in a way. The only other, so the fourth brewery listed in Liverpool, and this is not just Liverpool, this is like Merseyside.
Yeah.
Was Passageway. I mean, only 4 breweries. But Passageway were quite unusual, weren't they? If I remember rightly, they were brewing with Abbey yeasts and Belgian style beers.
That again was many years ago, and they were asked a couple of years ago whether they would start up or sell the rights of certain beer ingredients and things, but they said no. I'm not quite sure what went on. I think it was acrimonious.
I know all the
split,
casks ended up in the Baltic Fleet when
Yeah.
they were doing their beer pub, so I don't know whether it transitioned into the Baltic Fleet or
because that's where he originally started.
when Stan,
were they in the Baltic Fleet?
well, when Stan was there at the Baltic Fleet underneath the pub, the casks that they filled had Passageway written on them, so I don't know whether or not that was it morphed into it or anything else.
Because they closed in 2003, I've got that list.
Yes.
But again, they were unique and unusual. So
That's right.
you're getting. So they were like a brew pub then, weren't they? The Passageway, or quite a small place.
I actually don't.
I'm not sure whether they were a brew pub, but I do know they had something to do with the Baltic Fleet. I say obviously that itself has got a history anyway. From obviously with brewing from Wapping and things like that.
I mean, Wapping, I've got listed as starting up in 2006, so 3 years after Passageway closed.
Yeah.
There's some names of breweries that I hadn't even heard of. I mean, Beecham's I'd never heard of.
Beecham's? No.
Started in 99, closed in 2006. Cambrinus.
Cambrinus,
Liverpool Brewing or Liverpool Organic took
on that
some of the Cambrinus beers,
right?
Because they used to list some of the Cambrinus beers under the Cambrinus brand, but they used to sell them, I think.
I've never even heard of them. Everyone was Knowsley in '99, so turn of the century. I love being able to say turn of the century. It's already been turn of the century, meaning 1990. There was 4, 5, 6 breweries. Again, that's just hardly any, really, isn't it?
It's strange, isn't it? I say when you think, Manchester, only 40 minutes down the road, the difference. I think Liverpool is, obviously things are getting much better now, but we're still very much a cask traditional orientated city. But I do think that is changing, isn't it? And there's a lot more breweries now, thankfully, which is good to say. But I think as well, because we're much smaller than our neighbours down the road as well, that you know, I don't think we'll ever catch up, obviously.
I mean, historically, I remember as a young man drinking Higson's, which I think...
That's the reincarnation Higson's. It's not the one in the 1880s.
No, it was the one that... I think, didn't Keynes take over Higson's again, didn't he? I think Higson's stopped and Keynes took it on again, I think, if I remember correctly.
Higson's was originally bought what is now Love Lane, wasn't it? They brought that brand, Love Lane, going back. They started as Higson's, they bought that, and then they changed it to something like 1871 or something like that, didn't they? And then that didn't seem to work, because obviously a lot more people now were like, you know, obviously into beer, but they didn't know about Higson's, you know, because the younger generation, and obviously that wasn't working for them. So it was a case of, well, we need to do something. And then obviously Liverpool Craft, which was, you know, one of the original newer breweries with Terry and Paul, came on the scene, and they brewed some great beers. And obviously Love Lane was one of them, and then obviously they were the rights to Love Lane and everything else that went with it then was taken on by what originally was Higson's or 1871 or something like that.
Yeah, in the 80s there was
new Higson's.
In the 80s there was definitely Higson's pubs still about. Higson's Bitter, which was terrible, but
well, they were synonymous with silly names, weren't they? Like Pearhead and things like that. And the pump. The mats,
the beer mats, the really good beer mats with like puns on them. Did you have Beerhead and Pierhead, Pierhead, and a couple of football like ones that. And things like that.
I'd never heard of Higson's Brewery until recently, in the last few years when they started up again. I mean, because Higson's was one of the original 1800s breweries.
Absolutely,
and it was set up before Keynes had. It lasted longer than Keynes. And it moved when Keynes and Peter Walker's merged, and Keynes moved all the brewing out to Oldham. Higson's bought the Mersey Brewery, the Keynes big brewery in town, and moved their brewing into there just down the road. But and then they closed years later, and they had a large post estate, but I'd never even heard of them until the last couple of years.
I've never rated personally the Higson's beers that I've had. I think Keynes were much better than what Higson's were. I don't know, it seems a little bit more, certainly more drinkable. And it was a bit more appealing, I think, as well. Obviously that emblem that the yellow and everything, a little bit more, oh, that's interesting to look, instead of looking at like the Higson's. It looked a little bit, always reminds me a little bit of Guinness.
Higson's had a bigger pub estate. I think that's probably what it was, back in the day. There's still a few ghost pub signs around with Higson's.
So this is one thing with the Liverpool pubs. They were very ostentatious, very flamboyant, very elegant. And you take over one of those, you're not going to cover that up. you move it around. And I've seen a few sort of like older photos that were taken 5-10 years ago when I was looking for pubs to sort of go around and have a look at, and they had the old signs on. And you go to take photos of them now, and they have gone. And you're like, whoa, why did you cover that up? But
it's such a shame to say all like this. The Belvedere here, it's such a lovely pub, isn't it? Say all the architraves and everything in it, and some of the original fireplaces and bits and bobs.
And they're still using the fireplaces as well.
Downstairs,
I think when we came up last year to have a look around a few places, you guys recommended this place to me. Absolutely love it. It's on a must-visit list now as well. It does sell local beer as well, which this is all about. But it's sort of like the past of brewing in Liverpool is very strange, and it just seems to be not something that people really cared about. They didn't seem to care about it. And you say you prefer the Keynes over the Higson's and that, but you talk to some people and they're like, oh yeah, we've got the Keynes brewing that, but that's all people seem to know about it.
The history. I actually believe that people in Liverpool, and to a certain degree even now, they're not overly bothered about the breweries, even especially the pastors, to be honest. They just want to drink the beer, and they're not that way minded. Obviously I'm not saying everybody, but it seems to be more people they just they have no interest in learning about that side, or even as such some of the newer breweries.
Because looking at the breweries that are running at the moment, yourselves included, even though it's not that old, I mean, Love Lane 2011. Stamps? I've never even heard of Stamps.
Yeah, Stamps are based in that's Bootless, I guess. They've got, well, I don't know whether it's still their own, but they've got their own pub in Crosby.
Yeah.
So,
well, they were 2013, so that's what, 10 years then?
Well, Stamps were brewing what was at the time, I don't know what's happened now, but they were brewing the beer that was, well, on the kit, the lad who was brewing the beer for the Ship of Mitre.
Flagship beer. They were Cuckoo brewing in there. Yeah,
they were Cuckoo brewing in there. The original brewer who did it, he left and went to Scotland, didn't he, Joe? And then someone else came in and was going on their kit.
But Stamps they do their own beer. They do Republic of Liverpool beer, which is...
Don't see
you don't see a lot of it anymore. But Stamps was always one of them ones at a beer festival. You saw Stamps, and when we first started going to sort of beer festivals a bit more, you'd always see the Stamps beer on.
Because I've never seen a beer.
But I don't know whether it is just a local thing. I don't know whether it gets further out than Liverpool or Merseyside. I don't know.
Because then, 2015, Neptune, you guys. 18, you got that 8 years?
8 years nearly.
April's our 8th birthday.
Any big plans for the 10-year anniversary?
We will do. Let's just settle into this new brew and get the brew house, the beer house.
Then it seems to start changing, because 2016 Black Lodge was like the first of the Docks brew taps that came along. 2017 Handyman, Top Rope, 2019 Carnival, 2020 Liverpool Brew Co, 21 Aztec, and then 22 to 23 Canes. That's like Canes keeps sort of going backwards and forwards, isn't it? Just keep popping back.
I mean, there's a couple who did start up at the same time as us. You had Red Star, they were up in Formby. They've now ceased just before COVID, wasn't it? Rock the Boat was still going there in Crosby.
Rock the Boat and Big Bob down there. I have no idea when they started.
Rock the Boat started around the same time as us. There was us and Red Star and Rock the Boat all started about the same time. Red Star, they ceased trading probably 2019.
Just
2020 maybe. Rock the Boat's still going.
He's based in Crosby. He just does bottles and he does casks.
So he's
very traditional.
I had one of his casks. I think it was in the grapes last time we were up. Again, never even heard of it. I said, "Oh, where's the brew from?" Guys go, "Oh, it's a Liverpool one." I'll have that. Really nice. It was, as you say, very traditional, very solid beer, and just really enjoyed drinking that. But so going back to some of the Docks brew taps that seem to be opening, do you reckon that has kind of kickstarted a bit of a change in the drinking scene in Liverpool?
I think it certainly helped.
I think so. I mean, Black Lodge originally were in a smaller place,
They were just down the
Kitchen Street.
So they started there and then moved into the place they're in now. And they were like the first one of that type in Liverpool. And then Carnival popped up, and Azvex last year was Azvex? Last year?
I think so.
21.
21. So Azvex came along, and Azvex are doing stuff that as such no one else in Liverpool does. So they're doing sort of more of we'll call them the trendy craft beers, if you like. So they're more so
the hazy beers, and juicy and things like that as well.
I think juicy breweries opposite each other.
I think Carnival though also do traditional.
They'll do a bitter,
they'll do bitters and stuff like that. Whereas I think Azvex are more craft, if you like. If the definition of craft, if you like, they're more.
If you can see through it, it's not craft.
There you go.
Well, that's the thing. We're still after the definition of what's craft, isn't it?
But I think that's the thing. They brought something different in Azvex when they've came. And whether that's because of other breweries, obviously, starting up in Merseyside, Liverpool, who are actually making good beer, and that's attracted them to Liverpool. Who knows?
I mean, I've not met the guys from Azvex.
No, neither.
We've never met the guy who owns it. We know the brewer, who's Jack.
Yes, because he used to be at Love Lane.
He was at Love Lane. And Atten previously to that over the Hull. So we came from Atten to Love Lane, and then Love Lane to
Azvex.
Actually Twisted Wheel first.
That's right, Twisted Wheel.
Because the wheel folded recently.
On the back
Well,
again.
they're back again now, aren't they? And it's a much smaller capacity, isn't it? The brew, yeah. I think it's a 3 barrel that the
something like that.
I know it's much smaller. But yeah, sometimes you just can't keep up with what's bloody going on.
I know,
Who's brewing what, where someone's going, it just seems to be so much change. But we're constant now anyway.
That's why I say you're the legend in the local area because you're still here.
Well, hopefully we'll be saying that this time next year as well. So, yeah.
So how do you see the local drinking scene overall, and the local sort of beer scene and drinking scene? How would you describe it? For somebody visiting the area,
we've still got really great pubs, and you can get good cash beer.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we've always known about Liverpool. It's got really good traditional pubs.
Yeah.
And then you've got, it was the 23 Club originally, which is no longer there, which was like the first, again, we'll use the word craft beer bar, which brought the likes of Thornbridge and Magic Rock and stuff like that into it.
And American breweries as well.
And European breweries. So that was like where interest, I mean, to be fair, that's where our interest peaked in actually drinking beer, which wasn't just, bitter, if you like. So that was the kickstart for modern beer, if that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And then obviously got the Dead Crafty Open, so they took on the that mantle of getting the unusual beers, the sours and
they
stuff like
they
that
do
tap,
that
and they do it
very
really well. And they bring in the stuff from America or Scandinavia or wherever it may be. And then there's one or two other places now opening up, and they're putting keg lines in, so you've got a mixture of both. The pub we're in now, 3 years ago wouldn't have Polly's
would have been on, or
it would have been
that,
some generic, like maybe Marston's Shipyard IPA.
Yeah.
So even traditional pubs now are actually putting what would be classed as modern beer on.
Because I think that they want to attract people to come in, don't they? They want younger drinkers as well, and for older drinkers maybe to try something a little bit different. It's to pique that interest. But we are still very much a cask city. And we're proud of that. Cask is an amazing, drink, and we're still trying to, as you know, as a cask brewer yourself, that we're still trying to get away from that, it's fuddy-duddy, it's boring and whatever. Now there's so many amazing, we cask every beer we do. Doesn't matter what it is. We've casked our lager before, say, because there are some places that will take it.
The cask lager, it's so good. People when I said lager should never be in a cask. What do you think they were using before kegs came along?
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. So
they still whack a peg in a bottle in Germany, don't they? And pour it out like that.
Yeah, they're metal lined.
Yeah. But
that's all showmanship, that is.
Well, for us,
it's just wood clad.
But no, I think I don't see that changing, to be honest, for a long time, if at all. I say, our friends down the road, that seems to be more on the. Obviously, you have your cask pubs, and you have some amazing cask pubs, City Arms, Peveril at the Peak, and and they're amazing. They keep cask really well, but also you have a lot of your craft bars as well as your tap rooms.
I think it's the tap rooms, isn't it? Because you've got, I mean, obviously, as we've alluded to, obviously Black Lodge, Carnival, Asvex have got their tap rooms again. I think Asvex doesn't do any cask. There's a Carnival might have a cask or two on. Black Lodge again will have a cask or two on, but again it's mainly keg focused. And that's again, I think it's people drinking there. They go, we'll go to the tap room and they go, oh, this is nice, and then seek it out in pubs. That's the thing.
This is one of the good things about having a tap room.
Yes, absolutely.
You can show off what you can do as a brewery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't have to make a big batch of it. You don't have to worry about selling. You can just do a small batch, sell it over the bar. So it's a little bit of an experiment. If it goes well, you say, well, I have a really big batch, and people can go back to their local pubs. And say, well, I tried this, you really should see about getting some of it here. And that's kind of how the first beer festivals in the UK were as well, showcase what beer was out there. It's not just the standard ones from the same big breweries, there's other stuff out there. And the landlords could try it, and the pub and the drinkers could try and go back to the pubs and say, you should get some of this stuff in. It does kind of work for that, but if you don't have, it's a bit sort of like a catch-22, because if you don't have the beer in the pubs, nobody knows about you to come to your tap room. And if you don't have the beer in the tap room, nobody knows about it to get into the pubs. So
absolutely.
It's a bit of an annoyance, that sort of thing. And annoyingly, that phone's just run out of space on it. So I cleared this one, so it's all absolutely fine. It's like, this is the one with the mic plugged into it. Yeah. So that's okay. That's like the secondary, the backup sort of one. So I'm going to have to ask, which are your favourite pubs in Liverpool, though?
Well, the one, so we have a couple, but obviously one of them is obviously where we're going this evening for our event. The grapes. The grapes is synonymous with great beer, and it's looked after extremely well. Wilson, knows what he's doing. That's why he's been there so long. He has a good choice of beers on, and also keg beers as well. The keg beers that are going on.
They support every local brewery as well. Which is great.
Which is fabulous. Yeah. You obviously you get some pubs who will only take certain local beers. They won't take others. But if you go into the grapes, that Wilson, will have a couple of local beers.
That's one pub that we agree on, and I think most people in Liverpool agree on.
Yeah, you'll always find a couple of, as we say, a couple of brewers in there, through the week, because you just transcend it. It's such a, not just for beer, but it's such a comfortable place as well. It's welcoming.
I was in there yesterday afternoon and just ended up having a conversation about the history of beer findings and dry hopping in the casks with the guys that are working there. And it's genuine interest on their behalf. They're asking questions about it, and it's nice when you're in a pub and the staff understand about the beer and they're talking to you and finding out more, and it's a great thing. So that's a really great sort of way.
Absolutely.
I mean, the pub we're in now, we enjoy coming to. It was taken over 2 years ago. Liam took this on, and he's not saying revolutionised what's on the bar, but he's actually putting local beer on the bar and more interesting. Interesting, not, I hate that word, interesting. More diverse range of beers on the bar. Which traditionally the beer was always really well kept, but it was always very safe. It was made, it was like always a quite a
steady ABV.
Steady ABV, nothing too. Everything was crystal clear. It was one of them.
So no craft and it's crystal clear.
No craft. But I say Liam's took this place on, and he's now, he's diversified the range.
Yeah.
So this place, and then
I say the Roscoe cattle.
Roscoe Head, obviously.
The Roscoe
doesn't really need any introduction, does it? Really?
Great pub, isn't it? The beers are always really well kept.
Is that the one with your tailors?
Yeah. Then down the bottom end,
you've got the dispensary as well on the way down.
Yeah, the dispensary, but I'm talking more towards the bottom end of town. You've got Dale Street, and the Denby Castle. Was taken over a couple of years ago by the people who've also got the Bridewell. And again, the two of them, they've been in the pub trade for many years, and they've done a great job with that. And that the beer is well kept, the cask. It's not 7 or 8 days old. And again, they have a good craft line on as well, so there's something there that suits everybody. And I think that's what's important. If you have a pub or even a bar, is having that diverse, range on, isn't there? From ABVs to styles as well.
It's one thing. There's a bit of a bugbear when you go to some tap rooms and they're going on. We've got 22 lines of keg and it's 21 IPAs and a lager.
Or it's 20 lines, all 6% plus, and you've got 2 if you're lucky at 4.5%.
I just want a pint. Thank you.
I
am that. I've got to that age now, and I go into places and I just want a pint of sessionable pale ale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just what I want. I can't get that. I just want a nice, flavourful but not flavoured sour. I just want beer I can drink.
And it's also nice to be able to have beer that is stronger in strength and something different, because sometimes after that you go, do you know what, I'm going to go for that barrel aged stout, I'm going to go for that imperial or whatever, just to see the end of the night off. So it's good that at least you can have that choice, if you like, as well, isn't it?
Another pub which is really nice to go into is Dr. Duncan's, because you went in
there. I love Dr. Duncan's.
You can see the history. You can see the history of the place in there, all the tiles and everything else. We were in there the other week and we just sat there going.
We were going to go in there last night. We were going to take a few people in last night, but we got there at 10 o'clock and they closed at 10 o'clock.
I say pubs like this. I just sit and think, wow,
You sit and look
the
at things,
history and people who've sat here and the conversations that have been had and things like that. It is great. But yeah, Dr. Duncan's, which obviously a Kane's pub, and obviously they were taking the beer because the people who own the pub were in sort of contract with Kane's. And they did it up. We had a refurb, didn't it? It must have been about 2 years ago. A couple of new staff put in, and again the beer is great quality. They don't so much have much craft keg on, do they? They'll have on occasion a couple of different things, but they're still a good choice.
It's good cask.
I have to admit, usually, there is good cask. It's usually when I'm in there, it's one of yours that I'm drinking.
They do like our beer, don't they?
So if you're in a pub then, one of these ones, and none of your beer is on, because obviously if your beer is on, you're going to be drinking your own beer.
Not always,
because we can drink our own beer in general from the brewery or as now and again we will, depends on where we are.
If it's a new beer or we'd always you want to see what it's like out in the wild.
Quality control.
You'll drink something that's a newish beer that you've done.
Or if it's a new place that we've delivered to, we want to see how they, especially if it's cask. Obviously, keg, we are beers in key keg, so it tends to be fairly simple and straightforward. But with regards to the cask, it's nice to know that people are serving it properly.
Taking it right through to the drinker's glass and making sure that's okay. But if there's none of yours on, which of the local breweries around at the moment would you pick?
We're drinking Chapter at the moment. So
Noah does good beer. In cask, I'd say probably always go for. Noah will tend to go for his beer if it's local.
He does make really good cask. He really does.
I'm trying to think who else in cask. God.
On the
spot. Well, we'll go with Chapter. If it's keg, then there's a diverse range. Black Lodge, Carnival.
Yeah, you need to pick which
we'll pick
which one.
Yeah, you can have one each. I'll be generous about that.
Oh right, okay.
Keg. Oh good grief. I'll be honest. I don't normally drink keg out. I normally drink pints of cask and that's it. I'll occasionally, if we're in somewhere where it's limited cask, then I'll drink a keg. But I actually wouldn't seek out a keg beer as such now.
Yeah.
Which is a strange thing to say, seeing as we brew the stuff as well. But if I'm in the pub,
I fully understand.
I want cask beer. And bizarrely, I'll drink lager. But not obviously generic lager. It will be a good lager.
No Heineken.
So obviously there's a lot of good lager breweries out there now. And obviously I think most breweries now have a lager in their
repertoire.
Some of them is good. A lot of them still quite on.
There's a lot of work to be done.
So
little diacetyl bombs.
I'm going to decline the keg one because I don't really tend to.
That's fine.
I can't say that there's one because I like to try different things. I may pop in and say, oh look at that, Carnival have got that, that sounds interesting. Or then it could be Black Lodge, I'll go, oh that looks like. So I don't go.
Carnival and Black Lodge a couple of times, so I'll let you have
I don't go for one in particular. It's actually the beer. I'll look and think, oh that sounds interesting. Or I don't feel like anything too strong. I'll just have, a pale or a lager or whatever.
This does seem to be the thing with brewers. Generally, when we're not out socialising as brewers, but when we're just out to drink, we don't normally seem to drink anything above 4.5%.
Yeah, it's just normal, what we class as normal beer or lager.
Nothing that challenges you, nothing that's sort of like.
Because we're getting up early the next day brewing.
I also think that if you get a good pint of 4.5% pale ale, then sometimes that's all you need,
Yeah, no, I know very well.
As we said before, you might go, oh, I'll have that, whatever it is, double IPA, but you'll only have one of them as such, or maybe two of them if you...
It is interesting.
But then you'll go, that's a nice pint, I'll have another one of them, and that's the thing, I think.
Yeah.
It's like when I walked in here, they had Chapter on caskets. Yes, I was a pint of Chapter. It's nice, solid, decent drinking pale ale, so he does it very well.
It is interesting in regards to how people are with different beers, isn't it? That a couple of years ago, when maybe more craft keg was coming in, people would be drinking a lot more. Now they want the lower ABVs, and for us that's always been something that we've been synonymous with, easy drinking, straight up beers. We do some different beers and we do some higher ABV beers, but now people's drinking habits, so obviously breweries are having to think, oh god, we need to change tack, and what is it?
It's actually something I've seen in a change in the way, in the dynamic of the craft beer world. It used to be brewers would release stuff and tell drinkers they had to drink it. Yeah. You've got to drink this is wonderful, it's great.
Yeah.
But now it's the case that the drinkers pick and choose, and the brewers are having to match what the drinkers will buy.
Yes.
It seems to have come in the last couple of years. So I think part of that is that people just don't have as much money, so they're being more careful about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But personally, I think it's a better way of doing it. You want to know that you're going to enjoy what you drink. We may lose a little bit of the innovation and a little bit of the messing around with stuff, but I do wonder if we might actually see some breweries sorting out their processes and tightening up their beers so it's a little bit higher quality with this, because they are having to not just go mad where you can hide a lot of faults, you're having to produce a good, solid, clean beer.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When you put lots of adjuncts in, that you can hide a lot of mistakes, but when you're brewing something that's using those 4 ingredients, then you've got nowhere to hide really, and that's quite interesting when you're drinking beers as to that things you can pick up. Some people don't, it depends, I think, on how good your palate is, how good your beer knowledge is. If you know how a bitter should be tasting, if you know what an American pale should taste like and things like that, then but a lot of people don't, so they don't necessarily will pick up any faults, whereas people who are trained or in the industry have a little bit more knowledge in that, isn't it? So
should not be cloudy.
Well, exactly. Shouldn't be
it
a
should
juice
also
bomb.
not taste of juice.
Exactly. But that's the thing, isn't it? So nowadays there is less room for faults.
I think there's always going to be room for dynamic beers, but less so. It's obviously you've got breweries that started off going, as you say, buy this, drink this, and they're now mostly all making cash beer because they've got to, because there's not that many people now going, I don't really want to go and spend 12 quid I can.
And I think that must be difficult for some breweries, because obviously when it's some who come on the scene and the brewing the craft beer, and it's 8, 9, 10%, your dippers and your imperial stout and those type of things, and they're known for that, but obviously the sales are dropping dramatically, and then thinking, oh, we need to brew something that's a lower ABV, then some people wouldn't automatically choose that, because in one with that cliche, you've made your bed, you lie in it. People know that you are that type of brewery. So would we buy a 4.5% beer from you because you're so used to brewing the dippers and those sorts of things as well? It's difficult, isn't it?
It is. So what you get known for is what you're stuck with. And I got known for heritage in the stock brewing. Thankfully, I still really enjoyed it. But if I was to, when I was running the place, if I was to put out a cold IPA or a dipper, people would just think, what the hell's he doing? But I'm brewing for temperature, I can brew for them, and I can still do it, so it's great. But people know you for that.
You always remember the cock ale?
Oh yes, we do.
It was a genuine historic recipe.
It was.
Yes, it was.
And I think I actually do remember. I think I was actually, when you were brewing it, I remember you
with the chicken.
And I think for whatever reason I was at your place then. I might have been dropping something off or picking something up, and you were like, "There's a chicken in here." I was like,
none of this cross stuff when you brew weird ingredients or anything like that. Now I'll stick to the old-fashioned
because we all want chicken beer.
Definitely not vegan, that one.
I said there was only one pin of it and it didn't leave the brewery. It sold over the tap, and because we were a vegan brewery, we let everybody that ordered it know this is not a vegan beer. We were like, so it really does have chicken in it? Yes, it really does.
So I think that it's also a shame that that breweries do get pigeonholed into certain things. We know that a lot of people will automatically think of us as a cask brewery more than keg. And yes, we do brew more cask. When we first started, the first 8 months of brewing that Les did was purely for cask, because obviously we didn't know how the beer was going to be received or anything. And then obviously things changed. And I say, you know, we do cask, keg and can, and our keg is as good as the cask, but we are known more for the cask beer, I think.
I completely forgot you were mostly cask. I hadn't even sort of said that you are a cask brewery. It's just you are Neptune. Transcended dispense.
I think, but a lot of people, we do sell a lot of keg cans, but obviously a lot, we have no, literally the beer in cask will always sell out without any problems. You know, the keg's a little bit slower, but it does sell well. But I think people, and I don't know whether that's because when we first started out it was cask, or because we brew cask very well, and we do.
Well, do you think part of it might be because Liverpool is more of a cask city?
Probably, yeah. I mean, that's why we did cask initially, just because we knew locally, because that was our market. That if we started, I used to drink at the time, Sierra Nevada or whatever else, and Stone stuff and whatever, when we started brewing. I used to enjoy drinking it, but I pretty much knew we wouldn't be able to sell it because of, the market we had. So we started off as solely cask, and then we started doing a few bottles because people just like, we want to drink it at home. And then, just gradually started, broadening into keg, but because there were, certain places which we could sell our keg beers into.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of the norm, really. I mean, living in Manchester, and that is a very keg city.
Yes.
Went back down to Peterborough a few months ago, and that's a cask city as well. And I was talking to other males about them doing more keg, and they said, well, we sell cask, a lot of cask. And he wants to do keg, and they're going to start doing a bit more keg, but it's where they can sell it to. And the one part of that is, I was talking to one of the brewers of a Swanee brewery in Orkney, and he was at Rivington, and he just loves their soft, juicy, oaky, hot beers, and he wants to learn how to make that. And I said, do you reckon you've got a market for it on the islands? And like, no. If you could brew something that was like Tennant's, then he'd sell a load of that. But if he was to brew a nice Sneaker, he'd struggle to sell it. So, with Liverpool being predominantly a cask city, and going around it, it still very much is. Even in a cask called Guinness, there's a lot of Irish pubs.
There's a lot of Irish.
Yes, we seem to be getting more and more.
In 2 days' time, it'll be mayhem.
It'll be absolute bedlam. This time last year, Seba fell on St. Patrick's Day, one of the days. Oh my God, it was just,
carnage.
It is carnage. It is, well, I know, a lot of pubs and bars do well through it, but at the same time, they also hate it. We stay out of the city. We would never come into.
Liverpool.
It's the curse of hospitality. You do well with the stuff that you hate. So.
So you get lots of big groups, parties going on, and that's great. There's some pubs that revel, some bars that literally, it's great. They're the ones who love it and everything. But I say,
Well, I'm aware that I'm keeping you from your event, so...
what time is it?
It's 17.
Right. So, we're not due there till just before 7.
So we're fine then. But, just want to say thank you, guys.
Well, thank you for...
Because otherwise I'm going to go to the bar, get some more beer, and we'll be here all night. So.